Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by OnPay, Atlanta's new standard in payroll. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a fun one. But before we get started, it's important to recognize our sponsor, OnPay. Without them, we couldn't be sharing these important stories. Today on Atlanta Business Radio, we have Monique Chenault with REVOLT Black News Studios. Welcome, Monique.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm excited to learn what you're up to. Tell us a little bit about REVOLT. How are you serving folks?
We're really excited to be here in Atlanta. We just are erecting. We're under construction, but we've already started production on our first new studios for the network media company. So here in Atlanta is where we're building our production hub. And out of this production hub that we built right on Peachtree in the heart of Midtown will be where we produce all of our news programming, alternative programming, and all of our documentaries to sort of like a think tank creative center for that. So we just finished our first show 2 weeks ago. Another one went out yesterday, straight from that Peachtree location to the world. And our whole team is based there. Everybody's back in the offices. So it's really exciting what we're doing. We see what we do as sort of a public service announcement, honestly, even though it is news to our community, to Black communities and anybody else who's interested in the culture throughout the country, because we really do work to highlight and put the focus on many stories that are untold or not told through a authentic Black lens.
Can you give us an idea of some of the content that you expect to be kind of being rolled out in maybe the next 3 to 6 months?
I would say that we are pretty laser focused on a lot of social justice issues and keeping everyone honest. But our content varies depending on what is pressing, from socio-political to socioeconomic, to, community-based things. We also highlight a lot of, people who are doing great things in the community. But we see ourselves as a voice for, the unheard. I mean, this week when we covered the Ukrainian Russian conflict, or the Russian invasion of Ukraine, of the Ukraine, we really focused on, on the Black immigrants who were not being allowed to leave the country. And so that may be something that wasn't focused on in other outlets, but we wanted to sort of shed a light on that. In this particular episode, we also looked at, Black gun ownership and the responsibility of it, because it has, skyrocketed, particularly over the last couple of years since the COVID pandemic. We paid tribute to, Trayvon Martin and his family, 10 years after that very tragic murder. So, it sort of varies. And then we did, something that is affecting us in a social way, which are dating scams, because so many people have chosen to date online and through apps since the pandemic as well. We covered the Black Walk of Fame, which is here in Atlanta last week. So it really does. We do try to encompass and meet everybody where they're at in all different aspects of the news.
Now, what was kind of the strategy behind having the studios here in Atlanta? Obviously, they could have been placed anywhere in the country.
Well, we really did see Atlanta. Mr. Combs has been in Atlanta for many, many years. He was one of the first people sort of from Hollywood, New York, who came down and did a lot of music here. But, we really did identify, and I think obviously many people do, Atlanta as not only the Black business capital, but also the Black culture capital. We think it is the perfect place in reflection of, real Black people throughout the country. When you deal with sort of like LA and New York, and I am a fourth generation Angelino, but they can sort of become thought bubbles, right? But Atlanta, I think, really hits people in a very, very real place, which is why I think a lot of Black culture sort of stems from here. So not only that, we also saw it as the Black business capital, right? And then Atlanta has such a wonderful tradition in, historically Black colleges and universities. So when you look at all of those things, I think that it is, honestly, the perfect destination for a Black owned and operated news center.
Now, is the content going to be what's the ratio in terms of hard news and, like kind of that breaking news, like you were able to get on top of the Ukraine issue as it was probably happening, as opposed to maybe more, like you said, this is a hub for entertainment and music and things like that. Do you have an idea of the balance of those different areas of content?
Yeah, I would say that depending on what the news cycle, the things that are, sometimes I would, right now, the first thing that we have launched is Revolt Black News Weekly, which is our flagship news series. And so I would say that show, the first three, it's an hour show, and I would say the first, 3 blocks or so are probably a little bit more harder news. And then there's always an entertainment and pop culture segments, which I would say probably the last 2 segments. But, we reserve the right to sort of mix that around depending on, sort of what's in the news cycle that week. Right. We hope to get to a place where we're doing daily news as we continue to round out the team. And we are really looking for a lot of, local talent, producing, editing, graphics talent here. So hopefully we get to that place where we're doing something that is really immediate. But we do use all of our social platforms to, and we're building out RBN digital and social. So it's even separate from Revolt proper. So we are delivering news in a more immediate way through those channels as well.
And then it'll primarily is online. Is it going to go to, cable streaming? How is it going to be distributed? Yes.
The show premieres on Thursday nights at 9:00. And then we also put several of the segments up on YouTube, our YouTube channel, Revolt YouTube, and also Revolt Black News YouTube. And then the full show you can find on the Revolt app. So if you just go in and download the app, all of the programming is there as well.
So is that going to be the primary kind of distribution point is through the app? So it's controlled by your team?
Yeah, I would say linear first. Because we serve all of our all of our cable carriages, and then we also have the other aforementioned channels.
So it's on cable as well as online.
Absolutely. Thursday nights at 9 is when it premieres on Revolt, the cable network.
And then so you're going to try to get on more cable networks, like more satellite, more every place that can possibly be.
Oh, yes. Our team works on that nonstop. We are on, a lot of the different, on Comcast, on Charter. We're in a great percentage of American homes, and then we just continue to expand that.
And then is it also could you get it on a Roku or some of the streaming services?
We're working on a lot of those partnerships now. We're doing some work with I don't want to speak out of turn.
Right. But so you're working on expanding in that area as well.
We are expanding in that area. Absolutely.
So now, what has been the most rewarding part for you in your kind of career and journey and to get involved in this type of initiative?
Oh, wow. I mean, it is sort of, I've been a journalist / executive producer for, a journey that has spanned it over 25 years. And I would say, hands down, this is probably one of the most exciting parts of the journeys that I have embarked upon. The opportunity to do something that is unapologetic, that is disruptive, that's confrontational, that keeps everybody honest, and then also serves, underserved communities. So I'm like pinching myself, it's unbelievable to be able to have this opportunity. So, and then to work for a creative visionary like Sean Combs, it's just, honestly, stuff that dreams are made of, and under the direction of, just a really young, I call him a young genius, DeTavio Samuels, who's our CEO. The team here has just been really amazing.
Now, has there been a story, maybe even from your past, that can encapsulate this, giving a voice to folks that aren't typically heard? Is there something that you would like, where at the end of the day, that when that story's told, you'll be like, this is exactly the stories I want to be telling, and this is the impact that I'd like to be making?
You mean like something that we're working on?
Or just something from your past that said that this is a story that's so important that I just wish more people knew about this type of issue or this type of a person, and it'll kind of encapsulate what the vision of the network is?
You know what? I would say this is probably the best example. Over 10 years ago, back when I was at NBC News, there was a young woman who went missing, who was from South LA, a community called Watts, LA, which is probably one of the poorest communities in LA County. And she went missing after, driving all the way to Malibu, which is, fabled Malibu by the beach. And during this time, I had previously covered, sort of like the Natalie Holloway tragedy, Chandra Levy, Jennifer Wilbin, who was the sort of the runaway bride. And also it was just a stream of women that were going missing during that time that the media chose to, shine some light on. And it led me to look at sort of that narrative, that usually when women who went missing were covered by the media, they were usually rather affluent, almost always white and, attractive, and sort of filled a certain bill. And I started working on this, Maitrice Richardson, that was the name of the young woman. And this was long before it became sort of more popular as it has like the last year, where people started actually thinking about, hey, there's all different kinds of people who go missing. And there's a very small critical period for, the press and quite frankly, for law enforcement to get involved, for there to be any action or any possibility of them being found and possibly rescued. Sometimes it's not possible. But it was a story that back then, nobody sort of wanted to cover. And I had since stayed in touch with the family. In fact, I just saw the mom. Tragically, her remains were found about a year later. But the story was heartbreaking for me. I related to the young woman. And that's a story that today, if that happened on Revolt Black News, it would be our top story. It would be a headline. So to be able to have a platform where you don't have to jump on the sort of media news bandwagon, you have the wherewithal to and the bandwidth to think outside of the box and just do stories that are important. That is what makes this particular assignment so special, for me.
And so important. I mean, because these are stories that aren't being told. And then when someone steps up and says, you know what, this is going to be the place where these stories are told, I think that's important for everybody. I mean, everybody wins when these stories get told.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to, be able to shine a light on this and hopefully, pay it forward for the next time, it'll make a difference. News that makes a difference. That's sort of our mantra.
Now, is there something that you're looking at as a milestone or an objective that you'll know that, hey, this is really working, we're getting traction, and this is something that you'll be high-fiving each other at the end of the week? Is there something that you're looking at to kind of, prove to yourself that this is working and that you are getting the traction you desire?
Yeah, every time, we're starting to hear back from the community a lot and saying, oh, this is a story that I've been wanting to hear, or I wanted more information about. This conversation is long overdue. Every time I hear that, I'm like, that's it. That's why we're doing what we do. We had a conversation this week on it's HIV/AIDS Awareness Month. And a lot of people don't understand that, the contraction rate just amongst African American people continues to skyrocket, while every other group, it is sort of declining. And so to have that conversation about why is not a conversation that's going to be had anyplace else. So to be able to do that, and have people respond, and if it just touches, anybody and lets them know, okay, you got to take care of yourself, that really is the greatest reward.
Now, do you feel that this network is going to help educate some of the younger folks that maybe have not been paying attention to news and media of this kind because they're not being represented?
I would tell you this, that is our mission exactly. I mean, this is not your mother's news network or your mother's news program, right? And so we are doing everything that we can to communicate with Generation Z. And I would say that, 80% of our staff is Gen Z. So it takes a lot more work because, we're bringing everyone along and cultivating new talented. And it's a place where a lot of young people are going to cut their teeth in journalism. Everybody here is not from, J school, but they have a passion for information. And so that is exactly our target demo is young people. It's Revolt's target demo, and it is definitely Revolt Black News, the target demo of Revolt Black News. It is Gen Z and young millennials who we are in touch with, I would say, in a really special way.
Well, if somebody wants to learn more about the network, maybe check out some of the programming, or if they're, aspiring journalist or want to get involved in the media here in Atlanta, what is the website? What are the best coordinates to do that? RevoltTV.com. Hit us up. Download the app. You'll be able to see all of our programming from entertainment to news to things that are more community driven. And we're on YouTube. You can hit us on Instagram, Twitter. We're out there. Well, Monique, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You're doing such important work, and we appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me, Lee. All right, this is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio.